I got my Game Boy mug out.
No, I was excited too. That I had to stop myself and be like, no, we need to start this thing up. Okay, so you were just saying that there is a change, or no, there's no change in the weather really. It's still cold, but the
Yes,
prices suddenly just plummeted like there's some kind of fundamental change, but
but there's not.
there's not.
Yeah, it's almost like people realize that plaid is a really terrible fashion statement. Even back in the 70s, it was. And then they realize, like, oh, wow, this is a terrible fashion statement. They have to actually wear the suit with the polyester tie, whereas the rest of us can just, like, look through the mirror when we walk by on the street and be like, oh, man, those people are dressed with awful, awful clothes.
You're saying some people have to learn the hard way.
Yeah, some people just have to learn the hard way.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
there we go. Cool, cool. Okay, so there's a giant chart behind me with like just a huge red candle, and what's interesting to me is we're at 55,000 volume, and the body of the candle that is red is literally as big as the green candle that was 275,000 volume. So yeah, this happens on low volume though. Price does move. We noticed that a lot more this season than previous seasons, where price moves significantly on low volume. It used to be where price would just sit there. It would just sit tight overnight. It'd be like a 2 cent range. It wouldn't do anything. But anymore, it's just not the case. But yeah,
Yeah, but this
we're
is not low volume. Just like for people who don't know,
what's that?
like the amount of like share like contracts that have been traded today,
Mm-hmm.
it's not low volume. That's like it's not even market open yet, and like at
Oh, you know, you're
55,000.
you're right. You're right. But it's, I guess, like a lot less volume
Yeah,
yesterday. Lower volume is what I should have said.
no,
Absolutely.
it's all good. Just for people who like wouldn't know, because like what you're like back when he's talking about like back then between like now and then there would have been like 5,000 contracts traded, and the like price wouldn't. That's what you were talking about, like back in the day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep. Um,
It was like a straight line that just like
yeah. It
move
would just
within
go.
like a fraction of a penny.
It'd be flatlined because no one cared. Like no
Yep.
one.
Hmm.
You'd have people scalping, trying to get like that tenth of a penny move,
Yeah. Yep.
and then you'd be lucky to get like 2/10 of a penny. Um,
You like hit like this grand salami there.
yeah, yeah, the 2/10. But anyway, yeah. So like we're. I hope this isn't a shock to anybody. If it is a shock, I hope you weren't long, because that was just a ridiculously huge move, completely unfounded. But these are the kinds of things that happen that make us like to trade natural gas.
This is why there's tons of money in it,
Yeah.
which means there's an equal amount of money to be lost. That's the big thing. Is like there's tons of money to be made in natural gas, and a lot of times that's like what maybe people just want to look at. It's like, oh well, that money has to come from somewhere, and that's someone else's pocket. So, like you said, I hope for their sake they did not buy into the hype. Like, oh, dude, we're going to the moon. We're gonna have like $19 gas tomorrow. Buy it. GameStop now. Get your natural gas in a bottle over at AMC theaters. It's like we've been saying before. Like we swing trade, we don't day trade. So people who are going into like if they started initiating a short position yesterday, and then like if they had their stop loss set up because they were like looking for a day trade and they locked in those losses and they just got frustrated and walked away. And then they came back because they understood like that part of trading where oh man the price should not be this high. Well, they were right. They just needed to be patient, which is a really hard part about trading. That's one of the most difficult parts of trading for me is patience. Being like because it's easy to be like oh man cool like this price is here and there's like no doubt that this price is going to be at this other point in like 2 months, barring the apocalypse, in which case money's worthless, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you can just forget about all your positions and walk away at that point.
Yeah, exactly. You're in line at, like, the local, like, Walmart, like, raiding the shelves, like Jumanji.
Yeah.
The original one with, the kids, and I don't know who all those actors were. I just remember the lead.
I don't think anybody does.
Yeah, Robin
Robin
Williams was the
Williams.
lead. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I was gonna say with Robin Williams and all the blah, 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 all those other people who those people,
um,
which they're, like, our age,
I think
I think.
they're older than us now. I think.
Oh, snap.
Let's. I'm gonna look it up. Hang on.
Okay, yeah. So for people who are, like, looking into, trading gas, like, while you look that up, we swing trade, we don't day trade, and this is a great example as to why. Like, well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons. The other reason is, like, 95% of people who day trade lose their money, and only a minuscule percentage of the people who day trade and make money, like, make more money than they would by working at, like, Taco Bell. Which is why people on places like Wall Street Bets just make memes about stuff like that when it's like tax year. Oh man, I did like 20,000 trades to make 14 bucks over the
Yes.
course of the whole year because it's
So
sitting there
true.
scalping.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, exactly.
Oh, and
So,
well, you were
so
right. They are our age.
well, it's because we're old, dude.
Yeah,
That's
I
the thing.
guess
We're
so.
old.
Dang it.
It's now official. It's now official. You are official. When you think that like child actors from like the 90s are older than you, and then you find out at the same age, you are now officially old, my friend.
That was good. I saw the hand gesture. um, yeah, and one of them was Kirsten Dunst. I mean, that's an A-list name. I never
Oh, that's funny.
yeah, it's hard to remember like child actors except for Macaulay Culkin or whatever.
Hmm.
Culkin. Um, yeah, now it's like how low will it go? Will it go to 460? Price action today because that's apparently like critical support, according to somebody. I've had it drawn as support on my chart for a long time, but let me show you here. This is the only reason why. I just kind of guessed, honestly. This over right here. See, like how it kind of stutters right here. There's a cluster. And then also keep in mind if you're a trader, not a trader, like support and resistance, there's always like an area. These things are drawn as lines because otherwise, like my chart would just be filled up with these huge rectangular, like translucent blobs. You know what I mean? Like, because there's an area.
Hmm.
There's probably like an 8 cent area, 4 cents on either side, where you can really, as price moves to that hard line of 460, there'll be more likely that there will be more buyers if it's acting as support or more sellers as it's acting as resistance. And the closer you get to it, the stronger that attraction is. That's the way I'm going to explain it there. But
Yep.
anyway, I've had 460 drawn for a long time, and it was just like I just saw this here, and this is the only reason. I kind of guessed at it, took a stab, and maybe it'll hold up again, or it'll prove to be significant again as we get closer to it. But there's like kind of like a little, I don't know, it's stutter step, and then it just takes off from there. That's the only reason. Um, I don't really trade off technicals very much, so I'm not like sitting here averaging out like this whole cluster, like this range to see like where the average support is. No, it was just like, oh, 480 looks good, but
Now I'm with you.
that's
That's a big thing about technicals is that there are a lot of people who do pay attention to it, and they actually initiate trades based off that. Like the numbers here, and they just ignore all other aspects of trading and just that's why I pay, I think you pay attention to them for the same reason. That's why I pay attention to them. It's just knowing that, oh, there's a lot of people with a lot of money who they make trades like strictly off this. And I've read, trading books, like, and some of them are just exactly that. They talk about nothing but technicals because it's easy to put into a trading, a quote unquote how to trade, learning program, and it's like nothing but technicals. And I'm not saying that you can't use technicals to like trade and make money. I'm not saying that, at all. Like, just that, but since I understand that there are people who look strictly at that and they have a more, I guess you could say, like aggressive trading style. That's the thing. Everyone has their own trading style, and they're trading other people's money. So like I've said before, if I was trading someone else's money and I was getting a paycheck, regardless of what that outcome was, then you know the way I trade would be totally different than the way I trade now because I trade my own money, and the only way I get paid is by making money on my trades. I'm not, running like Melvin hedge fund where there's like 55% of my position like a month and still get paid like billions. And I just tell like all the like simps, like, oh no, don't worry, you'll be all right. Just give me more money and I'll make it better, I promise.
Yeah, I think also the word aggressive I think is really good, but it's synonymous with risky. I think, right?
Hmm.
Higher risk tolerance.
Yes, uh-huh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because they're doing engaged in higher risk trades because there's not actually higher risk to them themselves.
Right.
Because you know what I mean? Like if you tell me like, oh man, I'm gonna sit at home and do what I'm doing right now, except the only difference is I'm gonna get paid like a base salary of hundreds of thousands of dollars with bonuses, going on to, hypothetically infinity, but not, no one actually gets paid infinite, obviously, but then I'm on some bonus structure like that, and then I'm given like 10 million, 20 million, $100 million of someone else's money, and then I'm still gonna get paid regardless. Then yeah, I'd be way riskier trades because the risk is in the trade that the trade does not make money, and I myself personally have zero risk.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I don't buy
Yeah.
like I don't buy $1,400 t-shirts, so I have
Yeah.
more than three brain cells, so I can literally like, yeah, like seriously. It's like when people are like write those like silly letters into like financial blogs, and they're like, "I'm 72. My spouse and I have $8 million. Can I retire?" It's like, no, you're obviously too stupid. There's your answer. Go
Yeah.
push grocery carts.
Yeah. Oh, and then also what you were saying about technicals. Yeah, it's okay. So in my mind, the price of a commodity is driven by fundamentals. So you have supply and demand, and just to narrow it down, make it easy. In order to you don't just go look at like what the supply and demand is. Like if you're just starting out trading, you have to do all the research. Like what do all these things mean that are determining supply and demand? Because they're not laid forth in like layman's terms. They're laid forth in like tech industry jargon. Because people, they have like what, a linguistic set that they use that like it makes it easier for them to talk about the commodity. Anyway, so you have to go research all those things. You have to like there's a lot more research. Basically, is what I'm getting down or getting at here with supply and demand versus technicals. You learn technicals, and you don't have to like do any kind of like continued education on the commodity. You don't have to stay plugged into it. You learn technicals, and that's it, right? I mean, it's also like an absolute. Whereas like supply and demand, how it translates into price action is a little bit it can be looser, right? It's like it's an interpretation. Um, as far as like those support and resistance and like price targets and stuff. And so I think like with technicals, it's a lot more clear cut and it's easier for people to digest and accept a trading strategy based around that.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that? Or I mean, is
Yeah, I agree. I agree totally. I think part of that also, with that and that like that reaffirms, what you're talking like what you're saying is that technicals are often faster and people like a quick uh payoff.
yeah,
Whereas fundamentals are way more delayed because, like like we talk about all the time, like how we're swing traders, and then when we talk about price, that's something that I've said, you've said it. How we're just like we just like look at the chart and we're like, well, I don't know about February contract, but I don't care, because we're like back in January. But I know that April contract not going to be $5 come time to not be trading April no more. Like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, so there's more of a delay in, oh, okay, well, I'm going off a 3-month window. Not that like tomorrow it's not going to be $5 or that the day after, and then you just like are seeing that and then setting it up, and then 2 months later you get to cash in.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. Yeah, it is a lot quicker.
'Cause then that's looking at because then you're looking at fundamentals.
Hmm.
Because it's like, oh, well, where's inventory right now? Oh, it's the inventory is this. Inventory is X. Okay, well, in order for the price to stay this high, like what we were talking about, like where the prices were elevated, in January a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
and okay, for prices not to go back down, and because we can look at what inventory is, and then say, okay, well, how much demand has to be generated in order to make prices like not go down to where uh like someone's going to make money by going short, for example. Uh you guys do the math. You can be like, oh, well, this is the normal burn. Oh, how much burn do you have in order for it to to get to that inventory level? And you're like, oh, you have to have like twice the burn as normal. So you're like, oh, okay, so it's gonna have to be twice as cold as it normally is for like 3 months straight. I mean, it's possible. We could go into an ice age. I mean, that is possible. I'm not saying that like facetiously. I mean, serious. That is possible.
Yeah.
It's possible that a meteor could come and hit, a place. It's happened before. Luckily since most of the geographic like landmass of the world is not inhabited, it like hasn't killed a lot of people. But you know what I mean? Like, and asteroids have hit the Earth with, in recent history where it had like nuclear power, like blast waves, but like hit Siberia where like nobody lived, so we were like lucky in that, or they hit the ocean. So like stuff like that is possible, but it's so highly unlikely where it's just like there's going to be some risk in all trades, and then it's like, okay, well, which one is the most probable result, like at any given point? And that's what I think. So like looking at fundamentals goes in like, oh, there's a lot more into it like that than just like technicals where it's just like, oh, okay, it hit what's called resistance, so now I'm gonna, you know, go long. Like that's the thing, like looking at like technicals, like looking at your chart, someone would be going long right now because like, oh, we're now at support. Okay, I'm gonna go long.
Yeah. I'm listening to what you're saying, and I agree with everything you're saying, and that was my thought too. I was looking over at the chart. Oh, it's at
This
480.
is the dip.
Yep. This is. Here, let's look at this. Let's look at the daily chart. I'll switch this over. 480, I would say, is critical support. And that's just because we had a pretty big price reversal here, which set up 480 as possible support for over here. Once it took another dip, and then it tested it a lot, and then it
Hmm.
became critical support. I would say after testing it like 10 times
Hmm.
over here.
Oh yeah, I was being serious. Oh yeah, because we've read about this even like in the last day.
Oh yeah,
That's
no,
48 hours. This
yeah.
is literally like if someone's trading technicals, they're literally going long right here.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, cool. Like what exactly what we're talking about. It's like literally playing out in real time. This is where you're like, oh, we're at the dip now. Okay, I'm gonna buy now because this is now support because we're above this line, and that's what trading technicals is. And as you can see, there's buying at this price point. You can like anyone can look at the chart right now and be like, oh yeah, there's buying happening like right now.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Just it's like an illustrative. Oh, no, I'm just pointing it out because it's like we're talking about technicals and fundamentals, and then it's literally like happening right now. So I just thought I'd
Yeah, it's great timing.
pause.
seeing seeing some volume here.
Yeah, and it's like you said, like you get in these price ranges, where and then you get increased, activity relative to what was going on before, and like the price will like stutter. I should say like price action like stutters at those price points a lot of times. That's why it's like a big deal, like a huge because there's like the three parts of trading: fundamentals, sentiment, and technicals. And then that's why since technicals are so closely watched by a lot of big players in the market, yeah, if the price like blows through like a point of like major support or major resistance without like hesitation, that's like a huge where it's just like, oh, dude, sentiment is, you know what I mean? Like something like the game is like something big has changed recently in the game to cause sentiment to shift.
Yeah, like yeah, it's if it blows through something like that, then it's like a unanimous decision that it is not worth that much. Like that is no longer an important price point.
Yeah, it's either worth more than that or worth less than that, and yeah, just whoop zips like right through it and goes to some other range. Uh, and when that happens, it's usually because there's some kind of huge event that
Yeah,
has occurred, some kind like on the fundamental side to make sentiment be that like driven. Another thing about technicals, like yeah, like you because like you were saying, it's a range. I think that's like really important to for people to know because they'll like put a line on a graph. And then they're like, "Oh, it's not to my line yet." And it's like, well, if the person at the huge like investment bank put their line like 2 cents different than yours, and they're trading $5 billion, well, the market's going to react to them initiating their trade one way or the other, not my my account, not like the retailer, whether it's me or someone else. I don't trade futures. I trade a retail. Like we've said that before, but in case people don't know, my trading has zero effect on the price of futures because I don't trade the futures themselves. I trade a derivative of the futures price. So however much I buy or sell, it's like zero effect on the price itself.
yeah. And so going back to like you were mentioning, like if a trader with millions of dollars, like big money, who's trading futures, they have their line drawn like 2 cents different, or maybe they have like the one line, but they know that everybody else has a line drawn there too, so they want to start buying in early.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we
Yeah.
kind of saw that happens. It happens a lot, right? Because if everyone is using the same support or resistance, um, then it behooves a person to 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 act a little bit earlier than when price
Mm-hmm.
actually hits there. And I think we saw that at 485. We saw a couple of
Mm-hmm.
green candles. It came up, I don't know, it's like 489. So it came up 4 cents right there. It bounced, and then and that wasn't enough. So it had to get closer, and it looks like it's trying to develop a bottom here at what four well the 480 support, but now it's 4825, and um,
Mm-hmm.
that has a lot to do with, or sentiment has a lot to do with that also, like how big the area is. So like we have a line at 480, and then like if sentiment is really say bullish and 480 is acting as support, then we would see more like this over here where it's 10 cents off. Like at 490 it started to bounce, but that's also different hours of the day, so it's a little bit different. But that's kind of what we see depending on how strong sentiment is. I think I made my case. I don't need to keep going, but yeah, maybe it might be developing a bottom here. It might get a bounce back up to VWAP. I mean, you can see it's way below VWAP right now. VWAP is this white
Mm-hmm.
line up here. It's at 5086. So this is a big.
VWAP, for people who don't know, is volume weighted average price. So it's like a the price average based on off volume that's gone on like for the day. Day traders pay like real close attention to it. Sorry, I just had to throw that in there real quick.
Very important note. Thank you. Yeah, and so I scrolled back on this chart behind me. You can see yesterday it was above VWAP. Price action was way above VWAP all day. Never once
Mm-hmm.
touched it. And then I have my VWAP set up to where it resets the next day. And so for futures, the there's an hour, so the market closes. Was that 5 p.m.
Yeah, East Coast time.
5 p.m. East Coast time, and then it
Uh-huh.
reopens at 6 p.m. East Coast time. So there's an hour break, and so this line right here, it's like this horizontal dotted line or a vertical dotted line. That's
Mhm.
where the new day is, and then so VWAP resets there. And then
Mhm.
so looking at this, v, price action has been above VWAP a little bit, but super low volume, and now it's just well below. Oh, here we go. Price is bouncing for sure.
Boom, market open.
Oh snap! Okay,
That could be what was going on. There was like consolidation or hesitation because it was like right before market open.
right. And we do have the inventory report being released today. That's in an hour.
Yeah. Expected to be chunky.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm supposed to say? Because like if I can't say fat, or I mean I can, but people get sad.
I say
They
I
get
think
like sad face emojis. Look
think
like,
thick. It's gonna be thick.
oh yeah, it's gonna be thick. It's gonna be thick. It's gonna be a thick withdraw about 280. You know. Oh snap. Oh man. That's literally like a consensus. 280. I didn't make that up. uh.
Oh,
So yeah, like it's about 280 billion cubic feet. Is one of the that's about the range that people are looking at uh for the withdraw. So that's kind of the again, it's horseshoes and hand grenades. That's like a ballpark number, and that's that's big. That's a big withdraw. Uh, that would be like what the withdraw would have been for last week for people who don't know. So like the number who gets that gets put out today is from the week ending on the 28th of January. And so that's saying how much gas got taken out over the course of that whole week. So it's like a delayed reporting. And then I got to sneeze. Sorry. And
it's all
then
good.
this week, like what gets withdrawn for this week will be reported next week. I don't worry, I'm still alive.
Good. Okay. Cool.
And then so this week, what gets drawn ending on the 4th, the week ending the 4th uh, of February, will be reported next Thursday. And this week, like we're going into this like super cold peak in natural gas demand. It's like the highest peak of all winter that we got going on, and the expected withdraw to be reported next week, like on like a week from today, is about 50 billion cubic feet less than what is expected to be reported today. Um, so we'll see if that plays out also, because it's always one of those things where, like we've talked about, people get notices. They've been getting notices all across the country how their utility bills are going up, and retail consumers of gas are often less sensitive to that sort of thing than like businesses, because there's been businesses like in industries that are very gas consuming, and they consume a lot of natural gas for their like manufacturing that they do, like manufacture fertilizer or plastics, metals like aluminum, and then they've like been scaling back big time because of the cost. So then all the people who are looking to buy bargain aluminum are not getting bargain aluminum because like, okay, well, we can't make it for that price right now, so only the people paying the primo can get it. So like less is being consumed. Like so there's greater sensitivity like in those enormous consumers of natural gas compared to a lot of retailers usually. And so we'll see if that is continuing to play out because consumer sentiment is getting down in the United States. I think people are running out of their stimulus money. So consumer sentiment's going down, and that includes doing things like paying for utilities.
Yeah, it's like a quadruple whammy. No more
Hmm.
stimulus money. You have to start paying your student loans again. Inflation is skyrocketing, and then your energy bills are just going up too. Again, like you said, like people like you and I, like we consume natural gas, but on like a really small scale, and so like that's residential, individual consumers of natural gas. Like you said, they're insulated from these huge price spikes. Um, but yeah, I mean it's still going up. The cost of it. I see headlines all the time where utilities are requesting increases in their rates by the state regulators.
Hmm.
See it all the time.
Yeah, it's been all season. That's been going on. So that's what, yeah, I'll be interested to see uh, how this plays out uh, because has not been like a whole lot of demand destruction in the United States so far because of there's been some like obviously like there's been like switching to coal and whatnot to burn for like energy, but the withdraw expectations, they've been what the estimates have been and what has actually come in have been like really close, and at times they've even been more bullish, significantly more bullish than the estimates. And so I think those estimates were going in on the assumption that there would be more demand destruction than there has been uh last couple months.
Yeah, that
So
this is what we were talking about. Like so, demand destruction. Basically, if you're unfamiliar with that, it's basically just like prices are so high that less people use it because less people can afford it, or they find other things to fill the role that natural gas plays. So like coal, but so prices go up. Um, People can't afford it. They use less, or they use something else, or whatever, and then so you have less demand, and so that it takes time for that to play out. That's what we were talking about, like trading fundamentals versus technicals. It takes time. Got to be patient. But that's the thing is, I mean, like yeah, fundamentals, supply demand, they ultimately drive price over time. So that's where you get these big big price swings, and that's why we swing trade and not day trade.
mm,
You wonder if it's going to come down and test again. 480. Probably just kind of like sit around this area until the inventory report, just to
yeah, it's
guess.
pretty usual. Yeah, before the inventory report comes out, yeah, it's usually gets pretty. Usually prices get into a pretty tight range. So yeah, that would not surprise me if the prices moved between uh 490 and like 484. But again, I don't day trade, but that's just something that yeah we see it gets pretty tight. The price does right before inventory release because it's like the big event, big planned event for the day.
Yeah, yeah, people definitely. Water's wet here, but people definitely trade based on the inventory report. Um, Looking at the weather here, so I think what a lot of people are looking at now, like a lot of traders, is we're gonna have this huge cold spike coming up this weekend. That's that's locked in. That's written in stone. And I think a lot of people
Mm.
now like they're looking at price movements based on weather in the middle of February. So I'm looking at from like the 11th to the 16th about, and it's there. There are definitely discrepancies in the forecasts. You know, like that far out. And I mean like the forecasts on one model. So I'm looking at the GFS ensemble, which runs forecasts every 6 hours, and it's like really um, it's varying a lot out there in that time frame that I mentioned. Like going over to the 34 day, it's a lot more cold on the 34 day than the ensemble. But again, like it's so far out, it's not really written in stone yet. It's still varying a lot depending on um, iteration of the forecast or like the run. And the ECMWF is showing something out there, but it's definitely, I mean, a big discrepancy. More about like how the duration and the time frame.
Yeah.
So just kind of wait until Monday, I think, and then we'll have a lot better idea of how much cold there will be, like sustained cold in the later, like the middle of the month. Oh, it's definitely coming up here. Is it gonna
Oh
break
yeah,
over?
absolutely.
Yeah, it's gonna go back to
The
VWAP.
cold. Yeah.
I bet it
Yeah, I think
stopped
you're
at
right.
$5.
Cold will how cold it'll be will definitely be more clear cut by then. And yeah, a lot of people are looking at that. Um, in the geopolitical sphere of things, Russia and Belarus, they're starting their war games that they got going on out there in Belarus. Supposed to go on until February 20th. That has a lot of people in NATO nervous because it's like when I say this, it's to put perspective in. But even though their like military is not huge, Belarus does not have a huge military, like relative to a lot of other countries. But it's like half their military is involved in these drills. So it's
Wow.
like 30,000. It's like 30,000 troops. Uh, so that's like just to put stuff into perspective. If like a country like uses half their military to like do some exercises, it's everything's relative. So that's like huge for them.
It's very significant. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's supposed to be going on for the next 3 weeks about. So they're scheduled to go according like the quote unquote like public announcement is that they're going to go on until the 20th of February. How long that actually is, obviously because there's all kinds of like gamemanship, like political games getting played. So it's just kind of a wait and see what it is they do, how long they're going to do it for. Uh, but yeah, it's got a lot of people in NATO nervous. So that's just we bring that up because that has a big effect on natural gas. Natural gas uh, is exported from Russia into Europe. It's like the largest single supplier of natural gas to like Western and Central Europe. Main gas lines go through both Belarus and Ukraine. There's concerns that there'll be an invasion into Ukraine by Russia, and that would like disrupt natural gas supplies. So that's why we bring that up. Something to watch for people who pay attention to those things.
Yeah, and like half their military is involved. I mean, I kind of it sparks a question in my mind. Is it? And then it's for a long time too. To me, that's training. Like it's not like to like stay frosty, guys. We're gonna go out here and do these drills just to like maintain your skills. No, like they're being trained by the Russian military, is what it sounds like to me.
Hmm. Yeah, they're real close. Like in networking or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, they're like really close in hand with each other. If that makes any sense. Yeah, they
Yeah,
are very integrated, like politically and
yeah,
all that. Like Belarus is like the pariah of Eastern Europe.
yeah. I'm so glad I don't day trade because man, like we were so wrong about price action.
Oh yeah, I mean, because they need like but as soon as that, and then it might go back down. You never know. It might go back up. Might go all the way up to VWAP. That's the thing. It's like a question of when does it go up to VWAP. That's one of the difficulties about, or if it ever does. Kind of like yesterday, how it stayed above VWAP the entire day.
Yeah,
So
it's
then
just,
it's like you're waiting for it to go to VWAP to enter a trade, and you just sit there all day.
and yeah, it just doesn't happen. That's the thing um about indicators. Any indicator, technical, is they work until they don't, right?
Right?
Like they and it's the truth. I mean, like
No,
if
I hear you
yeah, if
exactly. Yep.
yesterday, if you're like sitting there just chomping at the bit, like just waiting to go along, I'm just waiting for that opportunity. I'm waiting for the dip. I'm gonna buy it, and then like you have to set rules in trading. If you don't, then it's a good way to lose money. And
Hmm.
so like if your rule is like I'm gonna wait for it to get to VWAP or like get within a penny of VWAP, and then you're just like sitting there all day chomping at the bit, and then you just like you never nothing happened.
Yeah. And
Maybe
then today could be a day where you're like, oh, I'm gonna wait for it to get VWAP to go short or whatever. You know what I mean? And
yes,
then it could potentially never get to VWAP all day today.
yep, it's pumping. The Bulls were just waiting for like some sign of life.
Yeah, it hit that support. You know what I mean? Like
Oh yeah,
that's the thing. Like we talk about it, and it happened. People buy it. Went down there, hit that range. People buy it. Looking at it through technicals, it's a dip, and so they're like, oh, cool, yep, buy this dip, and that's exactly what happened. That's what people look for. That's why we pay attention to it, even though we don't trade it because it works, like you said, until it doesn't, and then we trade our own money, so that means more to us than someone at a hedge fund who's not trading their own money. We're almost like 80,000 contracts now for the day, so
holy cow, wow.
it's going to be a big volume day again. So it's not like a nothing burger going on here. Uh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like uh, we we take volume into consideration very heavily.
Mhm.
Because price action on a lot of volume, it just means more people think that whatever price action is doing should be doing that. So if it's going up on heavy volume, then people are like willing to buy there, like a lot of people, and it's more significant than like 30 people or 30 contracts. When I say people,
Mhm.
I just mean contracts. I
Yeah.
don't know why I make that relation, but yeah, like I was looking. Speaking of technical indicators, I was looking at RSI, and it got overbought, and then at 495, it was overbought in the red, and then it sold. And it's funny because like the MACD crossover, it's still saying it's got upward potential here, momentum, but I wouldn't go long on a March contract at 495 or 491 or whatever anywhere near here.
Amen. Well, I think that was good.
Yeah, I feel good.
Yeah, me too. That was a great note. I think you made a very great point there.
Thank you.
Hey,
Well,
everyone. I hope you all have a great day.
yeah, good luck trading out there. It is
Mhm.
volatile.